Alright, welcome back to the channel today, guys, and we had a really good episode of Overlord today. I enjoyed my time with it thoroughly. It was way better than I thought it would be today. And we have some really interesting implications moving forward that I'll say right now, when I saw that ending, guys, I was like, wait, is that a player character? Is that an actual player? I don't know, but I'm very excited. But before we get into the video, I have to mention last week's video. Yes, I realize now that they changed a lot of stuff. That the theocracy that they mentioned in last week's video is actually supposed to be, what was it, the Holy Kingdom, the Holy Empire? Something like that. And that, moving forward, that's going to confuse a lot of people. Now, I want to say that they announced an Overlord movie that's coming out, I believe, in 2023, that covers that arc in the light novel. Like I said, I'm not caught up, so if I'm talking up my ass a little bit, I apologize, but I want to keep you guys informed with what I know. And that movie is going to cover that arc and those events. I believe volume 14 of the light novel, they said, which I believe is the Holy Kingdom arc or whatever. So I believe they will clarify and clear things up in that. But I could definitely see the confusion. Because even after I heard this info, I was kind of confused. Like, why would they not bring that up? But I imagine it will be clarified then. But I just wanted to give a heads up to you guys. But without further ado, let's talk about this wild episode of Overlord Season 4, Episode 9 today. Now, this episode started off great, in my opinion, where we continued where we left off from last week's episode, where Albedo came to the kingdom to come talk to the king and everyone present. And the king declares that, I'm terribly sorry for what my noble has done to the Sorcerer Kingdom. Will my head be enough to satisfy you? And Albedo laughs at him. I loved that. I love that. She showed her real face in this instance. She just laughs at his face and says, I've misjudged you, king. She tells him, is it because that man's not by your side anymore, or that you've seen how capable your son is, but you would never make a decision like this? And she tells him, well, that whatever you say now isn't going to change our stance on the matter. The Sorcerer Kingdom is declaring war on the Re-Estize Kingdom. And everyone there is shook. Rightfully so. The absolute last thing they wanted to happen. And Albedo, with everyone shook, says, we will declare war 1 month from now at noon. The only exception is if your kingdom invades Irantal before then. And she leaves them with that declaration. The nobles try to speak up, but Albedo just looks at them and says, do you want to die before the war starts? And she leaves like that, and everyone is shook. And it's here that we get a scene with Brain, actually, at the orphanage, training these orphans. Because as you know from our previous episode, he's been training them to become the next Gazif, basically. To become the next shining hope of the kingdom. But with war on the horizon, they're in trouble. So he wants to get the kids out of there. Like, they know, if we go to war with the Sorcerer Kingdom, we're gonna die. Like, we're dying. Like, we're not coming out of this alive. We need to get the kids out of here now to make sure they're okay. So that they can pass on to the next generation my sword technique, even with how lacking it is, so they can carry it on. And that's a hell of a situation to be in, man. Knowing you're gonna die. Because I can't believe that Brain is gonna live. I can't. If he's involved in this war, he's gonna die. So the fact that he's doing this really showcases, like, how much he's grown. That he gives a shit so much about these kids now. About the future generation. And we see that he has Gazif's sword, actually. Razor's Edge with him. Which I find very interesting, actually. I kind of like that detail. And it's here that we transition to kind of the war room of Nazarick in a way, where Ainz is going over what their plans are going to be in this ensuing war. Now, Demetrius has essentially erased their presence. No one knows what they're doing right now. They are in total secrecy, which is very good for what they're doing. And Albedo has slowly but surely been able to make some of the kingdom's nobles defect to the Sorcerer Kingdom, effectively weakening them and strengthening Nazarick as a whole. And Ainz starts going over their plan of how they don't want anyone to interfere in this fight. They want it to be a face-to-face, one-on-one fight with the kingdom. They don't want anyone to interfere. They want to shut down the kingdom's borders before they even notice. So to do that, they've actually been going around and just completely wiping out these villages and towns that are around the kingdom. So they can slowly but surely, like, corner them and completely overtake them. And it's a very effective strategy, actually. If it works, it will completely take out the kingdom. They will be defenseless and they will be annihilated. But Ainz is a little worried because everything's going a bit too smoothly. In any plans, in any situation, if something goes too smoothly, usually something is amiss. And Ainz is a little worried about that. So he says from this point forward, all the floor guardians, I'm going to have to give you more responsibilities. And he tells them to prepare for a situation to where we get attacked by a stronger guild. Which, as I'm watching that, I'm imagining myself, like, I just can't imagine them losing. Like, if Nazarick loses, like, that's definitely the end of our show, right? Like, if they lose, like, what happens after that? Like, that's the end-all, be-all of Overlord. Like, I feel like that's how the series is going to end. I just can't imagine them losing. And it's here they start talking about the next town that they're going to annihilate, the port city of Nual, and how it's a relatively small town, honestly, with not that many military forces in it. And Ainz is overseeing the next battle, actually. But the Floor Guardians notice that, you know, our military power seems a little weak here for some reason. And they notice that, you know, in the previous battles that Ainz has overseen, some humans have actually gotten away and escaped. They've survived. And they're like, what is the reason for that, Lord Ainz? And he says, I will explain to you all in our next, after the end of this battle. And this scene, we get transitioned into a very interesting scene. And it's here we transition to the 5th floor of Nazarick at the frozen prison, where Sebas is actually taking Ainz to go talk with Pestonia and Lady Ningredo. Now, Ningredo is Albedo's sister. And I know this because of another YouTuber called Annie News, who does videos about Overlord, actually. Very detailed, very well-made videos, actually. So you guys should check him out. I'm going to try to put him in the description, actually, because I know about Albedo's sisters because of him, actually. And those videos are really good. I suggest you guys go watch them. But she's been put in prison because of her actions, actually. She's been basically on house arrest because of how she's been. So Ainz is actually going to meet with them now. And to my knowledge, I believe that her sisters are supposed to be mentioned throughout the series in the light novel, but the anime has kind of cut out a lot of their content. Like I said, from watching his video, that's the impression I got, that they cut out a lot of her sisters. So when I saw her name mentioned, I was like, oh shit, like what's about to happen? And he goes and meets with them, and she's got an appearance. She basically looks like the Ring girl with a giant set of scissors. Literally straight out of a horror movie. But she's incredibly compassionate, actually. And that's why she's been locked up. Because she suggests to Ainz that, can we end this pointless slaughter against the kingdom? And you see, her and Pestonia have actually saved people in the past. They are the most compassionate people in Nazarick, actually. Despite her appearance, Ningredo is one of the most compassionate people here, which is kind of surprising. And she wants to end the pointless slaughter. And Ainz says that's impossible. And Ainz tells them that we enacted this plan to strengthen Nazarick. That's been our entire goal, is to strengthen Nazarick. Do you think showing mercy would benefit us and would further our plans? And they argue that humans have potential. Humans are innovators that birth a bunch of new things. That their continued growth would be the growth of the world itself, basically. And they give an example about the biscuits they have on the table, which are cookies, let's be honest. But and they say that they used to be so rough and coarse and how they were not soft at all. But over years of innovation and them pursuing more and more knowledge, that they were able to become softer, texture, sweeter, and so on and so forth. And they argue that humans with enough time could greatly improve the world. But Ainz counters and says, that's what I'm afraid of. That's what I don't want to happen. His counter-argument is, as civilization progresses, the powerful get stagnant and the weak get stronger. And he wants to eliminate any possibility of Nazarick being overthrown by humans. Like, that is Ainz' #1 goal, is to protect Nazarick no matter what. And if he just lets humans continue to grow and grow, the potential dangers of them overthrowing Nazarick continue to grow and grow. And Ainz is about to leave after that argument, after he's made his point clear. But they actually insist that, you know, Lord Ainz, this is kind of like the carrot and the stick situation. Wouldn't letting some of the humans live, actually, like a very, very small handful, wouldn't that help spread the terrors of the Sorcerer Kingdom and help instill fear so that people would not rise up against you? And Ainz has to kind of ponder this for a second, because he thinks to himself, like, you know, the Sorcerer Kingdom is going to be a place where a bunch of different races and people will come together. And opinions like this in Nazarick are incredibly rare. So rare that these two are the only ones that have them, which make their opinions incredibly important, because every Floor Guardian has kind of a similar mindset, where they think every human is beneath them, that they're inferior. Every other creature besides them is inferior. So these two's opinions are invaluable. And that is the reason why Ainz actually decided to let some people live when he destroyed these cities. But he has no way of explaining that to the Floor Guardians, who do not like this actually at all. And that's why he let them live. And it's here that we transition to E-Nuarl, as they're preparing for this frankly hopeless battle they're fighting against. They are fighting against 100,000 undead and, what was it, 2 Death Knights? Which is kind of wild that they only send 2 to take out an entire city. And it's here that we meet Count, what is his name? Nyara. I want to say his name is Nyara. And he is joined by the Mithril Adventurer group, the Four Armaments, which is a big deal. They're Mithril Adventurers. And they're overlooking the battle. And she asks him, apparently the captain of the Four Armaments asks him, like, are you not offended that they send only 2 real soldiers against you? And he's like, no, it's exciting, actually. And they have a very frank conversation with him, that the Count, he doesn't believe they're making it out of this battle, frankly. He doesn't believe they are. He says, I would love to surrender, but there's no way that's going to be possible. And she asks him that, shouldn't you try to escape then with your family to try to get to safety? And he brings up the point that, have you seen how these battles have transpired? How only a handful of people have lived. And he says right then and there that, I think the Sorcerer Kingdom plans to completely eradicate every single person of the kingdom. So there's no point in trying to escape. It will be meaningless. Which, he's come face to face with death, basically. He's accepting it, and wanting to die on his feet, which is pretty commendable. And it's here that the Count is trying to rally his troops to kind of raise morale, saying, I have a bunch of great items for you if we make it out of this battle. Nope, they're not. And we get a really, really weird scene, actually, that I'm not really a fan of. Where one of the 4 armaments, Lilynette, says, you know, I want a better reward than that. Don't you have like a family heirloom that's a very special item? And he says, well, yeah, I have a sword that has all 5 elements attached to it. She's like, I want that. But the Count actually wants her to become a courtesan to one of his sons, actually. And the son is like 12 years old. And Lilynette's like, oh, like watering at the mouth, like, I want that too. And that's just so weird to me, bro. Like, don't do that, Overlord. Come on, keep that kind of shit out of here, please. Don't put that in here. I thought this scene was weird, but worth mentioning at the very least. As they're getting ready for battle. And at this point, the battle commences. And at this point, the only real threat are the 2 Death Knights that are there. The other undead, they can take out with magic and all that. They're not that huge of a deal. It's the 2 Death Knights there that are going to decide this fight. And the 4 armaments realize that. So one of the Death Knights actually charges towards them. And they prepare for a really drawn-out fight with this thing. Now, even with being magically enhanced, the captain of the 4 armaments is at best, like, I guess even with the Death Knight, which is not a good thing at all. And they are feeling despair in this fight. There's not really much they can do. And she even tells them that. She even says to everyone else on the team, like, retreat. We're going to buy you as much time as we can. Run now. To try to save her men, obviously. And it's at this point that the other Death Knight charges and breaks into the kingdom, and they have to fight 2 of them now. It is an incredibly hopeless situation for them. They are not living. But it's at this moment that we get a really interesting scene, actually, where another adventurer comes in and wipes out the Death Knights with apparently a gun, which I don't even think is a weapon in this world, and saves them. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is this another player character? I'm, like, thinking to myself, like, is that possible? Is this a player character right here? Because that, I don't know. That's the impression I got, because that weapon's not in this world, typically, so I'm very curious. They say he's a mithril adventurer, but I'm not too sure about that. And that's how our episode ends, actually. With the Floor Guardians saying that, oh, our 2 Death Knights have been taken out, and Ainz is like, as I expected. And that's how our episode ends. You guys let me know what that means, honestly. Like, I'm incredibly interested in that. That was a hell of an ending. Are we getting another player already getting introduced? And if so, like, what does that mean for the show moving forward? Like, I'm very interested in that. So you guys let me know what you think down below. But yeah, guys, like I said, that'll be it for today's episode. I thought it was a great episode, personally. That really kind of leave a lot of questions on the table that I very much want answered. So, I'm looking forward to next week, personally. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day. And if I missed anything, guys, absolutely feel free to tell me in the comments. I do not get mad at that whatsoever. But until next time, guys, deuces.